Alrighty, folks. So over here on the left-hand side, you'll see our Argos concrete. Now, those white silos that you see right there, those are 45 feet tight is because currently right here, the water is 45 feet deep. Now, the average depth of Tampa Bay is 10 feet deep. So that means all but I think one small kid could stand on my shoulders and your head would be out of the water. He'd probably have to stand on my head for his head to be out of the water. The water's pretty shallow here in Tampa, and so it needed to be dredged out in order for all these large ships to come in and out of here. Now it's about 30 miles from here to the Gulf of Mexico, and then even the Gulf of Mexico is very shallow. It has a low gradient. So it takes a while to get deep enough water. So there's about another 15 miles of the Gulf of Mexico that's been dredged out as well. So you're looking at 45 miles that got dredged out from averaging 10 feet to 45. That's a lot of soil and dirt that needed to be moved. And I'll show you where they put it in one moment. Now concrete happens to be our #1 used commodity. If only I had a horn that bought on the truck. So I Googled the size, the dimension of the horn on Enchantment of the Sea. That horn is 12 feet long. To give you an idea of reference, from those yellow stairs up front to where my feet are now is 20 feet. So yeah, that horn is over half the distance between me and the front of the boat. Alrighty. So if you look off the left-hand side, you'll see some animals painted as murals on the silos there. Now, the one with the dolphin and manatee painted on, that is our manatee rehabilitation tank. So when our population of manatees get a little too low out in the Tampa Bay, what happens is the manatees that have been rehabilitated in there are then put into a tube and then launched into the bay. We actually turn it into an entire day event. There's a bunch of boats and cameras and flags. Everyone has fun out here on Manatee Day. Alright, I love how some people are being skeptical about that. That means I know you are listening to me, because that was an absolute lie. Do you know how illegal it would be to launch a manatee? It's a mammal. Okay, no. Those are actually petroleum tanks. You'll see the Sicko logo on it now. And that's why I have to tell that joke before I get to this point. So what ended up happening is there are residents that live on Harbor Island. That is the island towards the right. The bare minimum you can pay for waterfront property on that island currently is $1.2 million. So that means they spent $1.2 million bare minimum to look at the port. Not hating on the port or anything, but I know I wouldn't spend my money that way. So they actually wrote up a petition during the 90s and said, hey, y'all gotta do something about this. Y'all gotta make the port pretty. So the port hired an artist known as Eric Henn to paint these murals on there. And all of those animals, with the exception of one, are native to Florida. There's one animal that is painted as not native. It's a flamingo. It may not be native, but it's definitely a local. Now a couple fun facts about those animals. You'll see the bald eagle here. First off, Florida has the second highest population of bald eagles in the country. The state with the most bald eagles is Alaska, which that makes complete sense. They have 30,000 of them. We have about 1,800 of them. It's not even close for comparison. Also, the manatee, aka the sea cow, its closest living relative is not the cow, it's the elephant. They technically don't have fins. They're known as arms. They don't have nose. It's a trunk. If you're hearing something that sounds like gunfire right now, it is the cannons on the Gasparilla ship that's on the other side of the island, by the way. And manatees also have toenails. And lastly, the sea turtle. Now, it may be a little, it's going to be very rare to see a sea turtle this time of year because their mating season in Tampa is between May 1st and October 31st. When those turtles come in, you like to find a nice soft sand and to lay up to 100 eggs at a time. Now, the fun part is, if the sand is cold, the eggs will hatch to be male. If the sand is hot, the eggs will hatch to be female. It's easy to remember this way. Dudes are totally cool, and chicks are totally hot. Now, petroleum happens to be our number one import. About 50% of all Florida's petroleum usage comes through this port. And these islands here is our number one export. It's molten sulfur, and the ones with the round dome top in the back is the molten phosphorus. Both of those come from the Bone Valley mines that are located about 20-25 miles away from here. Now, both the sulfur and the phosphorus is used to make up to 98% of all the fertilizer used in this country. There's a lot of fertilizer used in this country, especially given the fact we have an entire sector of this country dedicated to agriculture. We have an entire sector of this country dedicated to the agriculture of this corn, aka the Corn Belt. Speaking of agriculture, Florida is an agricultural state. Does anyone want to take a guess at what our number one agricultural product is? Everyone says oranges. That's the answer I expected here. I thought it was oranges. They don't even make top 5. Our number one export this year is strawberries. Matter of fact, the Strawberry Festival is going on right now in Plant City. Our number 2 is tomatoes. Then after that is grain for cattle, because we are the 3rd largest producer of beef in the nation. And then after that is soybeans, and then citruses, which is broken down as grapefruit, limes, lemons, tangerines, and then oranges. So much for putting the orange on our license plate, our signs that say welcome to Florida, and I'm pretty sure I've seen a couple of them in the airport too.
Export by weight or by money? Weight. By weight.
All boats priced are done by tonnage. But by tonnage is not done by weight. Tonnage is done by gross volume. Gross tonnage volume, and it's based upon the British ton, which is 2,200 pounds compared to an American ton, which is 2,000 pounds. Now over on the left-hand side, you'll see our Tampa shipyard, aka Tampa Ship. Now you'll see that blue boat in there. That is the Patrol, originally bought, designed, and owned by Paul Allen, the co-founder of Microsoft. And then where you see that center console boat headed to now, you'll see some blue hangars. That is Peter O. Knight Airport. It is a private airport located just at the tippy-tip end of Davis Island. And I'll be talking a little bit more about the airport and Davis Island once I start to talk about the history of the island. But as I come around this little lighthouse here on the right side, you'll see something a little more interesting that I definitely don't want y'all to miss. Once we come around here, you'll see Millionaire Row, aka Mansion Row. The biggest and nicest houses here in Harbor Island are on this side of the island. See, this is the west side of Harbor Island. Now to put that in real estate terms, that's the sunset side. People are always more willing to pay to see a sunset than they are to pay to see a sunrise. That also applies true for Davis Island, so you'll notice that most houses on this side, aka the east side of Davis Island, or the sunrise side, are smaller houses. The bigger ones are on the other side. Now this blue house, well, bluish green house here on the right-hand side belongs to the founder of Stringer Online University, and it is an estimated total value of $26 to $28 million, making it the most expensive property on the island. And that makes sense given the fact that it is the only house on the island to technically be on both sides of the island, since it is the peninsula. Now this White House here belongs to someone who's very, very, very popular here in Tampa. It belongs to Brian Glazer. Anyone know who the Glazer family is? Brian Glazer is the co-owner of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Spider-Man. Tom Brady's Super Bowl jersey is actually hanging up in the corner there. Now his house is estimated about 17 million, and then the rest of these mansions are about 9 to 15 million dollars. Matter of fact, just seeing a couple statues and some cows here at the yellow one on the back porch. I have no idea why they're there though. I tried to Google it, and when you put cow statues and back porch of mansion on Harbor Island, Google just thinks you're weird. Do I have anyone looking to hop off at Stop 8 Alpha? Here on Davis Island, go to the restaurants. I'm going to take that silence as a no. Alrighty then. Let's put it this way, that tugboat was around before the recent Japanese War. That tugboat was old enough to have... That tugboat's old enough to have grandkids in World War II. Alrighty, a few more remarks. We're going to see how much more cannon fire we get though. Off the left-hand side, we have our Tampa Convention Center. Happens to be the largest convention center in the southeast. At over 600,000 square feet and holding over 300 events every year. Now, because the convention center is so big, they can hold multiple conventions at the same time. So, for example, last year they had a very wacky combination. On one side of the building, they had the librarian convention, and on the other side was the tattoo convention. That meant there was a lot of ouch going on that week. That one was loud. All right, we're going to be pulling up to stop number 7 here shortly.